Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
For every veteran, there is a story about a calling to serve, to fight for the freedoms of the American people. And every story has a struggle, a sacrifice, and invisible wounds. Warrior Watts programs help veterans recover from PTSD and invisible wounds through exercise, nutrition, and connecting with other veteran leaders. It is estimated that 22 veterans die each day by suicide, and another 30 veterans die each day by substance abuse. These are preventable deaths. Warrior Watt is committed to fighting PTSD through fitness, nutrition, and community.
All right. Welcome back. MisFitNation show. We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience need to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, Stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisfitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation show and your Sunday after dinner show. Happy New Year to everyone. I know we took about a 2-week break to recharge, revitalize, and give not just myself, but the Tuesday crew, Steve and Jake, a little time to relax, unwind, spend time with family, and then, of course, bring in the 2 holidays, Christmas and New Year. Hopefully everyone had a good holiday season. And those who were affected by the events in New Orleans, our hearts and prayers, we go out to you. Hopefully it was just an isolated incident, lone wolf type thing. If not, stay vigilant, everyone. Just stay vigilant. Keep your head on a swivel. Understand that life is a little chaotic right now, and there's some evil people in the world that want to do evil things. Maintain your focus and keep pushing forward. Don't let these events keep you down. Keep pushing forward and have great lives. Tonight, we have a great guest. He's a celebrated entrepreneur, educator, and author with over 5 decades of experience in business and personal development. He began his career dominating the real estate investment world, founding Vanguard Marketing and Investments Incorporated, and authoring acclaimed books like The Royal Flush of Real Estate Investing and The Millionaire's Treasure Map to Real Estate Investing. As a transformative trainer, he has explained his focus to empowering individuals to reach their full potential through systematic self-improvement. Tonight, we'll share his visions and learn his story from start to where we are now. So without further ado, let's welcome Dennis Henson to the MisFitNation show. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate you having me tonight.
Oh, it's great to have you on here. Thank you for reaching out on Podmatch and getting this connection going. Podmatch is a great platform, and it brings people like us together that probably would never meet each other in life without that kind of a network. Can you hear me, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, good. Dennis, if you don't mind, tell the Misfit Nation a little bit more about you than basically 2 paragraphs I just said about you, from as far back as you want to go to how we got here to where we are today.
Thank you, Rich. I was a band director up until 1975.
Wow.
And I wanted to become a college band director. So my band had just finished marching in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl parade, Tournament of Roses parade. And I had just earned a master's degree the year before, and things were really moving forward. The University of Mississippi had offered me a fellowship to come and finish my doctorate, which I started at Mississippi State. And Georgia Tech contacted me and said, would you like to become the band director at Georgia Tech? Well, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a college band director. And so I moved to Atlanta. And the day before the contract was to be signed, I received a call from a large company in Tennessee. You may have heard of it. It was Henco Incorporated. They wanted to fly me up there and offer me a position. And I said, well, no, I don't think so. I have the position that I want. I wanted to be a college band director for a long time. And they said, well, look, we'll give you a round trip ticket. We'll buy you a steak. We'll give you a $25 cigar. So they talked me into coming because back then a round trip ticket was worth a lot. I mean, you didn't get to fly much, and I was a young kid. So I thought, well, I can go up there and tell them no. Well, when I got up there, they offered me 20 times the salary of that I was being offered at Georgia Tech. So I took the job. And when I did, they gave me 3 books. Now, this was a turning point in my life. They gave me Think and Grow Rich, Success, the Glenn Bland Method, and The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mendino. And they also gave me their manual, the Henco manual. So I read those books, and when I finished reading them, I was a different person than when I had started. I'd never been introduced to motivational training or just becoming motivated. So I went out and I made so much money. I bought a Mercedes-Benz, I bought a home, I got married, I had all the toys that anyone my age would want to have. But the thing I wanted most was I wanted to be enthused like that again. I wanted another book. Well, there wasn't internet back then, and there wasn't Google. So the only way you had to find out anything was the libraries had no idea. They didn't know if books were motivational or not. They just had a section. So I asked the other people in the company, what books are you reading? How are you staying motivated? And they gave me some powerful books. And throughout my life, from then till now, it was kind of like a drug. I was addicted. I needed to be enthused and motivated. I needed that euphoria those books would give me to push me to do better and better and better. So as I read, some of the books didn't do very well. They were interesting and educational, but some of them were really impactful. So I kept a list of the most powerful books for 50 years.
Wow.
So I came to Texas, started investing in real estate, became super successful, wanted to have a group of real estate investors, but the Dallas-Fort Worth area is very large. I mean, if you go from where I am to Dallas to a meeting, in case there's a lot of traffic, maybe an hour and a half. Same way with Fort Worth. Round trip's 3 hours. So I decided, well, I'll start a group here in Arlington. And I did, and it grew, and I started teaching classes. But one day, one of the members came up and said, Dennis, I want you to mentor me. I said, well, no, I don't have time. That's not something that I want to do. My real estate takes all my time. And he said, well, you don't understand what I said. I said, I'm retiring and you're going to mentor me. So he said, well, let me take you out to lunch and we'll talk about it. So I told my wife, Norm, I said right before I left, well, I'm not going to do this because I don't have time. I enjoy what I'm doing too much. So I went out and we ate. After lunch, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a checkbook.
Oh, wow.
He handed it to me and he said, here, fill this in. And I said, you mean the amount? He said, yeah. So I put a number there that, I knew he wouldn't pay. And if he did, it would be worth walking away from real estate. He didn't even look at it. I mean, he literally tore the check out and signed it and handed it back to me without even looking at the amount that I put down.
Oh, my.
That's when I started teaching. So I thought, well, if I'm going to teach these people, they're going to pay me this kind of money, I better have a pretty good course. So I put together a course that I thought would really work, and it did. I had hundreds of students, and they became more successful than me. I mean, they became extremely successful, so much so that people would invite me to come and speak at their meetings. I got invited to speak at conventions, at expos, all kinds of things. And so one time on a podcast, someone said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? What do you tell them? And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they could just form success habits, they'll become successful. And then they asked me this, what's the most important habit? I thought for a second and I said, if they'll form the habit of reading something positive every day that leads them toward their goal, they'll become successful. So after that podcast, I thought, man, that was a great answer. Wouldn't it be great if there were a tool or an app or a book or something? Then it hit me. It was almost like I was jarred. Dennis, you've been collecting motivational quotes and poems and stories for 50 years. You could put those together in a book, and then people could form that habit really easily because how much every time they have, people are busy. If they have a minute, they can read a quote. If they have 5 minutes, they can read a poem. If they have 30 minutes, they can read a short story or a long story. And if they have hours, you can put your list of books in the back and prioritize them, and they can read for hours. So that was in 2018 or 2019. And I thought, well, I can put this together in a couple of months and I'll have the book. So early last year now, 2024, the book was finally published. It took me that long to weed out the chaff and put in the very best. And I got a really powerful book, and it's a wonderful tool. And if you go to Amazon and read the reviews, people will say, oh, this book came just at the time I needed it. So it's very motivational, and it gives you a list of books and suggestions so that you can be motivated for the rest of your life. Well, I'm excited about it, and I appreciate you having me on so that I can share it with the people that tune in.
Heck yeah, and that's a journey right there, and I really love that the story of the blank check basically, and the shock and awe for you to write a number and him just to hand it back to you, and so whoa, okay, and that's when life makes these little turns all the time. When these little moments changed our lives, and that changed you to a different path than you were on at that point. And
right,
how did that feel at that moment when you seen that? It's like, oh my God, this is weird but awesome.
Well, I think you said it. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it and wasn't planning to become a teacher, but I thought, well, I can do this. I mean, I have a master's degree in education, and I know what I had to do in order to become successful, what the keys were. And so I just set out a 12-week course, and I held the students accountable. So that when they came in, I would say, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you read this? And if they didn't, I was really hard on them. It was like being a football coach. You don't say, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. You get really serious. If you're going to be successful, you got to do this. And it worked. It worked very well. And because of that, I got some really great testimonials. So in the front of the book's named A Real Impact Daily Inspiration. The very first thing in the book is just testimonials from my students saying, if you do what this guy says, you'll become successful. Because many of them started with nothing and became millionaires and multimillionaires. And some of them are some of the most successful business people in Texas.
Wow.
It's interesting. You're from Tennessee. The company that I went to work for, Enco, the president of the company, Tom Hendricks, they're naming a building after him at the University of Tennessee at Martin. He's a super successful business person, very well respected. And I dedicated the book partially to him, and I sent it to him. Oh, he wrote me a 4-page letter saying, man, Dennis, you got a winner here. This is going to be a great book, which really meant a lot because he was my business mentor. And right. For him to be happy with it. Before I forget it though, Rich, if it's okay, I'd like to give everyone the ebook copy, everyone that tuned in. Is that okay?
That's fine with me, yeah.
If they'll go to realimpactbook.com and scroll down to the bottom, it'll say podcast attendee. If you click on that, just fill in your name and email address, you'll get the book automatically. I mean, instant. It'll come instantly. You will not be put on any email list unless you check the box that said, contact me for future books. Then the only contact you'll get from me will be when I finish the 7 Secrets or Real Impact 2 or whatever. You'll get an email saying this book is available if you want to check it out. And the reason I'm doing that is, look, I didn't write the book to make money. I didn't write the book to make a fortune. I wrote it to help people. I'm in the winter of my life. I'm not going to be here 30 years from now, but the book will still be here and it'll still be helping people. And my goal is, I hope when you get the book, you'll think of 3 people that the book will help other than yourself. Maybe a graduate from high school or college that hadn't decided what direction their life wants to go in, or maybe it's someone that's going through a hard time and you say, here, give this a read, see if it doesn't make you feel better. Or a business person or a salesperson who needs a little extra motivation, a kick in the butt. And the book is not meant to be read. It's not a book that you pick up and read from beginning to end. It's meant to be read a little at a time and contemplated. So you'll read until something hits you and you think, oh man, that's good. And then you read it again and then you think about it for the rest of the day. Now, if you do that and form that habit, it will change your life. It will put you on a different trajectory. If you wanted to go to Mars and your spaceship took off and it was off by 1 degree, you'd miss Mars by tens of thousands of miles. Well, if you can change your life by 1 degree, 10 years from now, you'll see the difference in your bank account, the car you drive, and the home you live in. It'll change. I married the most beautiful, wonderful girl in the world. And the only way that I was able to convince her to have me was that I knew that if you set a goal and you take a step every single day toward that goal, no matter how big or how unreachable it seems, it's amazing what you can do.
That's definitely correct. I read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and that kind of helped me focus in the little changes you can make every day or every instant to make things a little different, a little better as you go forward. You mentioned
right.
Think and Grow Rich, another great book.
Yeah, both of those are in the back of the book. They're listed, both of those.
I have both of them right here behind me on my bookshelf, so I'm glad I'm on track with what you're doing. So hopefully I can get over the hump and make it to the top soon too as well. I think if we all start to make those little changes and we all start to read a little more and not just listen to the noise, actually read things and kind of absorb what we're reading instead of kind of brushing through life, things will change a lot for all of us. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. That's exactly the message that I wanted to get across today, that it's the habits that you form today will make a tremendous difference in what happens to you in the future. If you want to become an attorney, or you want to become a doctor, or if you want to become whatever, you want to work at NASA, the first thing you have to do is decide that's where I want to go. One of my first mentors sat me down and said, Dennis, where you want to be 5 years from now? I'd never heard that before. Where you want to be 10 years from now? Where you want to be at the end of your life? Right. He says, you need to know those things. Well, in the book, it says how to use the book, and there's a system in there. In order to do the system, you first have to know, what is it I want? Where do I want to go? When I was teaching real estate, I would tell my students, I would say, now, if you wanted me to help you plan a trip, what's the first thing I would need to know? And then say, where are you going? I say, yes, if you're going to Rome, then I can get plane tickets, I can get schedules, I can find a place to stay, there's things to do. But until you told me you wanted to go to Rome, I can't help you. So the very first step is getting your mind right and deciding, what is it that you really, really want? And, you know, Rich, everyone seems to be looking for, why am I here? When it's being told to you all of the time. It's called desires. Desires are a gift. And so many people say, well, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I can't because I don't have the money. I don't know the people. I don't have the education. I don't. Well, this book is full of people who did the impossible. You read and what they wanted to do, like Lou Holtz wanted to become the coach at Notre Dame, and he was just a brand new coach, and he's gotten fired. And he wanted to be the coach at Notre Dame, which becoming the coach at Notre Dame was about the same as wanting to be the Pope. I mean, really, the chances were zero. And he became the coach at Notre Dame and became a super, and the path that he took was just amazing. So, look, I know the book is interesting because it had to be. The stories I put in were interesting before I put them in the book. So there's no question. It's going to be a great read because I didn't put any stories in there that weren't just powerful and wonderful and inspirational. That's why you don't read the book all the way through. I mean, by the time you read one of the stories, you're already inspired.
That's right.
go out, you know, kick some butt, and then come back, read some more, and you're ready to go again.
You just got to keep rocking forward. And it's great you brought up Lou Holtz, especially this time of year when Notre Dame is waking up the echoes of his last championship right now and moving on in the playoffs, which is amazing. I actually, when I started coaching before I went in the Army, I modeled my coaching style after Lou Holtz because I just loved the way he coached and how he mentored the players. And I would kneel down into that little squat he would do on the sideline. I do that same thing on the sideline. Even if I was doing basketball, volleyball, anything, I would always do that same squat and contemplate what was going to happen next and try to mimic what everything Lou Holtz did because I thought he was an awesome coach.
He is. He actually wrote me a letter. I sent him a book. And he wrote me a long letter thanking me for including him in the book. He's a quality person. I mean, he is such. And, you know, I grew up in Alabama, a big Alabama fan, wasn't always a Notre Dame fan. But there's two stories in the book about Notre Dame because they have such a rich history and so much has happened there. So I think you'll really enjoy those stories.
Outstanding. We got a question from the audience here. How did your mentor, Tom Hendricks, influence your approach to life and business? That's from Azim87 on Twitter, I believe.
Tom Hendricks is the person who hired me when I was moved to Atlanta to become the band director at Georgia Tech. Jeff Capwell, who was his sales manager, hired me and flew me to Memphis, Tennessee. And then they picked me up in a limousine and took me to Selmer, which is where Tom and Jeff and all of them were. And I was very impressed with their organization, their building. And we went to Tom's house that night. It was a nice house. It really was. In fact, it was so nice. It had a full-size pool inside the house.
Oh my.
I've never seen that again. I've never seen it before. And you talk about being impressed. And when we went to Henco, the parking lot that we're having a sales meeting, the parking lot was full of Mercedes-Benz. Every salesman in the company was driving a Mercedes. I eventually bought one myself, which, back then in the 70s, it was very impressive to drive a Mercedes. It was a big deal. And then it was he and Jack McConico that gave me those 3 books. And he wrote the Henco manual. He wrote that book, which was, I still use that as an example. When I write a training program, I still have my Henco manual from 1975. And wow. That's the book that I use as an example. So, to me, Tom Hendricks is just the greatest. I mean, he really had an impact, a real impact. And if you ever get to meet him, if you're in Tennessee, if you ever get to meet him, he's such a friendly, nice, wonderful person. I highly suggest you try to do that, because he'll motivate you. Look him up on YouTube, listen to his speeches. What a wonderful person, and a very extremely successful. I guess he's the most successful person I've ever met. Well, I've met some presidents, but that doesn't count. I'm talking about business.
He's not business isn't a popularity contest like the presidency. So yeah, it's different, a little different there. Yeah. So definitely, I'm in Tennessee, so hopefully I probably have walked into him without even knowing it somehow down in the greater Nashville on that side of the state, where more of those business people are down there. So
right.
Someday I'll maybe run into him on purpose and talk to him and say, hey, I met Dennis Henson and he mentioned you highly. So let's talk.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir. I got another question from at Taj, not Mahal. In your book, Real Impact, Daily Inspiration, you emphasize the importance of daily reading. What book has inspired you the most and why?
The book, in the back of the book, I listed all the books that inspired me, and I put them in priority order. The very first book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, I know that recently some people have written some things about him, saying that he was a failure, and then, they try to look, anything that's good is going to be attacked.
Of course. Yeah.
And that guy's helped more people in business than any other person that's ever walked the face of this earth. And he's still helping people, and he's been dead for over 50 years. So don't listen to that. Everybody that's in business fails. That's part of business. Elon Musk has not been totally successful. I mean, he's had failures too. And you can just list anybody that you list that's in business, that's had great successes, and you think, oh, they're a great business person. You can bet they've had some problems. Even Tom Hendricks has some serious problems. They were not his fault, but it's even more impressive that Napoleon Hill went through all he went through. He failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, and every time he got up and dusted his pants off and started over again. That's amazing. And that's the key. So anyway, that book, and I love Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. One of the scrolls in the back of the book says, I will form good habits and become their slave. When I read his book, I took those scrolls and I said, I'm going to do this. This was in the 70s. I'm going to make all of these scrolls a habit. And I read them every day, just like you were supposed to supposed to do. Some of them I didn't even understand what they meant. How do you multiply your value 100-fold? Well, I finally figured it out, and so sometimes it's good to know what the question is. Like in the story of Earl Nightingale in the book, it's all about a question. When he was young, he was extremely poor, and it was during the Depression. He lived in a tent, but he noticed there were people who lived in nice homes and had lots of money and had all those things, and he thought, why are some people poor like me, and why are some people wealthy? And he spent his life looking for the answer. And when he found it in a bookshop, a used bookshop. And when he read it, he realized this is the answer. And the book he was reading was Think and Grow Rich.
There it is. It's one complete circle. Yeah. And so it always goes back to that. And that is it's a great read. Think and Grow Rich. If you have patience and read and understand what you're reading, that's a book that you can. And so I think it's also on Audible now as well. So you can absorb it no matter where you are. If you're a reader or a listener, you can get that book and understand everything about it. And I like the book. So for me to like a book, it takes a lot. So that was a good one. And I enjoyed it.
Well, Rich, I think you'll enjoy all the books listed because they all have that cathartic. They reach into your soul, they tweak your heartstrings, and they motivate you, push you forward. And so they're kind of like a drug. You just need more and more. And the great thing about this book is there's another one and another one and another one, and somebody's already read them and they know they work. So it's
right.
It's a good list to have if you didn't have anything else but the list. And I'm giving it to you for free.
Right.
So just go to realimpactbook.com, scroll down to the bottom and get your free book.
And that's in the chat right now. And it's also in the show notes if you need to go back to that as well. If you're listening to this on audio in the future, it's in the show notes. You can get it. The link is in the show notes. So get in there and get that free audio, the ebook, and get these tips. And the list of books will help you out more than you know. Got a couple more questions in the chat right now from at Melanie Mel Oni3. You talk about developing habits for success. What was the most transformative habit you adopted in your journey?
The most transformative habit is the reason I wrote the book. It was forming the habit of reading something positive every day that leads you toward your goal. So it requires you to set a goal. The first thing you have to do is decide, well, what do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And then once you decide that, no matter how distant it seems, if you'll take a step toward that every day, you don't have to read a book every day. You can read Google, or you can go to YouTube. I walk every day. I walk several miles a day, take my dog walking, and I keep a separate list of things I want to listen to. So if I want to improve my health, I have a list of health things that I listen to. If I want to improve my business, if I want to market my book, whatever it is I want to do, then I'll find that on YouTube, look it up, put on my earphones, go for a walk, and the walk is over before it starts. I mean, I don't even realize I've walked all those miles, and the next thing I'm home. Wow, that was fast. And it continually, look, a ship without a rudder may get somewhere, but it probably won't be where you want to go. Well, the habit of reading every day reminds you, oh, I want to do this, so I need to read something that's going to get me. So it continually reminds you of what your ultimate goal is, which is very powerful because the human mind is scattered. Right? If you don't remind yourself every day where you're going, you'll go in 1,000 different directions and you'll never get to where you really want to be.
That's 100% correct. Once a lot of people have that short attention span too. So if you do not do that positive reading every day, or do not have the goal set up so you're reading it every day when you walk into your room, you're going to focus on something else every day, and you'd be like a squirrel and run that way and not have the focus you need to be successful. And I'm sure you've seen that with the people that you, those who you have been able to teach and coach and mentor along the years, that those who you were able to get out of that squirrel mentality and back to focus were more successful.
The people who came to me already had their goals set. If they were going to write me a check for that much money, they knew what their goal was.
Yes.
So it was pretty easy for me to push them in that direction because I'd already been there. But if they had had a different goal, I could have helped them to get there too. It just wouldn't have been, quite as detailed. But Rich, these questions are wonderful. I would encourage people to, if you're thinking, go ahead and ask the question. I really enjoy answering these.
There's another one already in there. As you say that, there's another one in there. So let's see. It's from Turnkey 96. What is one mistake you see most beginner real estate investors make, and how can they avoid it?
The biggest mistake that beginner real estate investors make is they do not make offers. They have to make offers. If they don't make offers, they're not even really a real estate investor. So if they'll set a goal of how many offers they want to make in a week and not let anything, if there's a snowstorm, you still going to make the offer. You're on the phone, or get on the send them an email. And if you will form the habit of finding really great deals, you need to come up with a system of finding these deals. And I always had a lot more than I had time to make the offers. And you make those offers. It's the law of averages. Eventually, you're going to get one, and then you keep up with the average. How many offers did I have to make? If I made 50 and I got one, okay, I just need to go make 50 more offers. But the thing is, the better you get, the smaller the number. I got to the point where if I made 4 offers, I got a deal. And sometimes I got all 4 of them. So as you progress, but when you first start, I always tell my students, go make 50 offers. And if you don't get one, make 100. Eventually you'll get one. Right. And the important part is, it's not if you got the offer. The important part is, did you make the offer? If you didn't, you don't have a chance. Wayne Gretzky said, you miss every goal you don't shoot.
Right. You miss 100% of those shots you don't take.
That's right.
And that's perfect. A perfect analogy there too. And when the great one said that, people probably looked at him and said, "Oh, this guy's crazy," but it's correct. If you don't take that shot, you don't take that step forward, right, you're never going to be able to understand if you were going to be successful or not. So, like you said, if you make 100 offers and maybe you make 25 of those offers come through, it's a success at some point.
Exactly. Great question.
I think we just got 2 more in as you were saying that as well. Yes. This one's a good one. At Jack Can Maybe Sell. How has the real estate market evolved since you started, and what advice would you give to those entering the market today?
When I started, interest rates were at 19.5%.
That's a big difference.
It changed quite a bit. It's funny, I hear people complaining about 9% or 8% interest rate. I thought, those are pretty good compared to when I first started. Look, real estate does one thing. If you'll look at read the book, The Royal Flush of Real Estate Investing. That's my book, but it answers your question very well. But real estate just goes up because it is the #1 product in the world. If you watch the survivor shows, the first thing they have to have is shelter. It's more important than fire, because if you build a fire and you don't have a shelter and it rains, you don't have fire anymore. So one of the very first things that man, when he gained consciousness, he had to have shelter, and that's going to be one of the last things when there's no world anymore that's still needed. So it's the #1 product in the world, and the price just goes up. Now it fluctuates, but everything does. But when I bought my first house back in Adairsville in 1970. I think I paid $20,000 for that house. If you go look at that house right now, and it's still there, I think it's $150,000. So over time, real estate's very forgiving, even if you make a mistake. And where else can you go and buy something, and the second that you buy it, it's your net worth just went up 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Sometimes when I buy a property, my net worth goes up $50,000 or $60,000. You can't do that anywhere else. And then you buy it with nothing. There again, you can read my book, The Royal Flush. You buy it with nothing. You have a bank loan, and the renters pay the loan down for you.
Yes.
So how's it changed? It's gotten better. It's gotten better because it's so much easier with AI and with the internet and all the tools that you have. Oh, goodness, it's just so much easier. I mean, you have Realtor.com and Zillow and Redfin. I mean, there's property. You can sit down at your computer and find 50 properties in 10 minutes if you know what you're doing. So it's just getting better and better. And even if real estate, let's say back in 2008, when you had the big crash in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, property values went down 3%. 3%. And that was the big crash.
That was the huge crash.
Yeah.
I was in Korea at that time, so I missed it a little bit, but I seen it on the financial side, not the real estate side. I came back to the climbing out of it in 2010 is when I came back to the States and was able to see some of the other side of it at that point. So it was a little different. I think there's one more in here. This one's from at Lead to Mentor. What's the most rewarding part of educating others through your workshops and books?
The most rewarding part's when they come in and say, Dennis, you changed my life. I've heard that quite often, but it really, you really feel it. You know, when you take someone, it's kind of like clay, and you mold them into something that's really good, and they appreciate it. In the beginning of the Real Impact book, when I started writing it, I thought, well, I'm going to need something to convince people that what I'm saying makes sense or can help them. So I just started contacting my students, and pretty much everyone that I contacted wrote something. And the things they wrote are so powerful. Someone came in one day and said, I read your book. I said, oh, really? Which story did you like best? And they said, the story of the little girl that came from Brazil that couldn't speak English. And she bought so many properties. And I thought, that's not really a story in the book. That's a testimonial. That's one of my students' testimonials. I thought, wow, that's pretty good. It was a pretty good part of the book. So yeah, I love it. I love it when people come back and say thank you. That really helps.
Yeah, I'm sure that not just brightens your day, builds a lot of people say it'll build their ego, but it also makes you feel good that you were able to share some of that knowledge that you had to help them better their lives and know that you didn't keep that stuff inside just for you.
Yeah, Rich, let me share with your audience this. If you want to make someone feel good, if you want to, I like to make someone feel good every day. Go to Amazon, find a book that you've read that you liked, and leave them a review. Give them a 5-star review and say, I love this book. Thank you for that. I recommend it. You will make their day. I guarantee you that, because most authors like me, you check the ratings every day. You want to see, did somebody say something? Did they like it? Did they not? How can I improve in the future? And I like to help people. And so what I just said will help a lot of people if you'll take it to heart and go do that. It doesn't have to be my book, although I would appreciate it, but just find someone's book that you liked and tell them, oh, I like this. It'll make their day.
And that helps. I think a lot of authors love that when someone actually gives them that feedback, whether on it's good, bad, or ugly, whatever. They give them feedback that gives them something to work with and say, hey, I can fix this in my next book, or I can make my next book that much better thanks to you with your good, kind advice. Another one popped in as you're talking again. As Taz88, what's next for you? Are there any upcoming projects or goals that you're particularly excited about?
When I started with Henco, Jack McConaughey started telling me about these laws. He said, there's certain laws that if you follow, your life's going to be successful. You're going to be happy. Everything's going to be wonderful. But if you go against these laws, you're going to be sad. Nothing's going to work and everything. And I said, stop. Jack said, why should I stop? I said, I'm sold. Where's the book? I'm ready to read it. And he laughed and he said, you don't understand, Dennis. It's not in one book. It's in a lot of books. And so I made it my life goal to find out what those laws of nature are. And I started writing a book right then, 1975. And I'm still working on it. It's 50 years later, but I hope to have it finished this year. It's called The 7 Secrets of Success. And I'll tell you what they are. Get your mind right. Seek wisdom, make detailed plans, take massive action, form great alliances, and being persistent. Every successful person that's ever lived went through those 7 steps. And I've read a lot of biographies and autobiographies, and I can tell you, you can find that in every single one of them. And it's very powerful. And the first one is the most powerful. Get your mind right. You have to believe, you have to know what you want and believe that you can get there. Henry Ford said, if a fellow believes he can do a thing, he's probably right. Yep. If a fellow believes he can't do a thing, he's probably right. So faith is it's the most powerful thing that there is faith. So the underlying of my book is desire, faith, will, and action. If you have a desire, you believe you can do it, you have the will, and you're willing to go on, action is the conduit between where you want to be and your ultimate goal. You have to take the action. No one else is going to take it for you. I mean, you can assign some people to help you, right, but you're the one that actually has to take the action. And when you're moving forward, you feel good. I read something today that said the way to get out of the dumps is to move forward toward doing something positive. Right. So I hope I answered that question.
I think you rocked that question right there. And it kind of answered my next question for you. What I always ask my guests as we get towards the end of the show is 3 bits of advice you can give them to start their day tomorrow, to start making their life a little more successful. I think you just kind of hit some of them, but if you have your top 3 things, that would be great.
Well, the first thing is go get the book. It's free. Read the introduction and how to use this book. And then sit yourself down and say, I'm going to do this. He says it's going to change my life. Let's give it a shot. And the second thing is do it. Make a habit. And it tells you how to make the habit in the introduction. Here's how to do it. Do this. I think there's 7 or 8 points. And, if you get off, get some help. Make somebody hold you accountable. Don't let anything get in your way. And once you form a habit, then it's a habit. Habits are like inertia. Everybody lives habits. When you first get up in the morning, you do the same thing. You either go brush your teeth, you go to the restroom, or you go get a cup of coffee. Everybody does the same thing every single morning. And then the rest of the day, they do the same thing. Their habits have them. When you try to change a habit, though, the inertia of your subconscious says, no, I like the habits we have. We don't want it. No. He said, don't do that. It's too hard to think about that. So your inner self is going to fight the habit. But once you've done it, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 100. When I got out of the hospital in 2018, I had a stroke. And I wanted to become healthy. And so one of the habits I wanted to form was walking. I couldn't even walk at the time. And so I wanted to learn to walk, and I wanted to walk every day. And I dreaded it so much because it was hard. My wife would take me down to the end of the cul-de-sac and back, holding my arm. And so I got to the point where I could walk a mile, and then 2 miles, and then several miles. And I at first I would dread it because, you know, that's a pretty big, daunting task. But now, 6, 7 years later, I love it. I couldn't even sleep if I didn't take a walk, you know, put my dog up. He's happy, and I put on some earphones. I go out. Once you get over the hump, then the habit is yours, and you don't have to think about it. A habit is something that you do without thinking about it. That's what a habit is. You just automatically do it. Well, if you can form a positive habit, like Augmendino said, and become the slave of the positive, the success habit, you will become successful. And as Tom Hendricks would say, you can no more fail than water can run uphill.
Wow.
I love that quote.
Yes.
And I love Tom Hendricks. If you can get to know him and learn from him, that's a pretty good guy to learn from.
That's a guy I'm going to look up and try to connect with. If you can help us with that, that'd be great. So, Dennis, you gave us 3 tips there. What's a great way for someone to get in contact with you?
RealImpactBook.com. It says contact us. There's a little link up in the top on the right-hand corner. It says contact us. It has my phone number. It has my email address. If you want to call me, give me a call. I mean, you can literally Google Dennis Henson phone number and it'll come up. I'm an easy guy to get in touch with.
Outstanding. Dennis, this has been great chatting with you. I appreciate you coming on and spending some of your Sunday night with us from Arlington, Texas, and hanging out with the Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation was live with you tonight. They were asking a lot of questions, and I appreciate that, Misfit Nation. Well, we appreciate everything you've done. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Rich. Had a great time. Hope you'll have me back.
Yes, sir. You have a great night.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.